to us this morning, Mr. Steve Shege, Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, Safaricom Limited. Let's give him a warm round of applause as he joins us on stage.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I don't know if it's a mask. Everyone sounds so. It's a great day to be here to be doing an important thing. So, the Chief Administrative Secretary, Ministry of ICT, Ms. Maureen Bakker, the Acting Director General of the Communication Authority, management and staff of the CA as well, representatives from the UNICEF, the GSMA, Google, and Facebook, colleagues from the mobile industry, ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
We're delighted to be here this morning as the ICT fraternity celebrates the World Safer Internet Day. At Safaricom, we believe keeping our children safe is an issue of critical national and global importance that calls for sustained and concerted effort as well as investment. As we have seen over the last 12 months, more of our engagement, education, learning, and entertainment, as well as work, is moving online. From interacting across geographies to transactions to learning new skills to gaming, or even accessing information and opportunities, the internet has become a key component of our lives. As these monumental changes take effect, we run the risk of leaving behind the most vulnerable in our society, our children. Today marks a milestone for us in Kenya as we celebrate a number of key initiatives that are being undertaken to protect our children online. As an industry, we are proud to be part of the annual commemoration of Safer Internet Day, which we have done over the last 8 years. During this period, we have taken steps to ensure that we continue to create a safe online environment for our children and all other users. Today, we are coming together once again to continue our cross-industry engagement in commemoration of this day. Through our partnership, we aim to provide parents, educators, and our children with an interactive portal providing information on how to keep them safe. Like all the other operators involved in this initiative, Safaricom is committed to enabling a digital lifestyle. But as we are keenly aware of our current investment, we take into account ways to make the internet safer, particularly for users who are young. In the past, Safaricom has supported the Hisia campaign, which was championed by gospel musician Jimmy Gates. We were happy to collaborate with Jimmy Gates and create awareness on the issue of internet abuse and cyberbullying, which affects many children around the world. To try to mitigate inappropriate content involving children online, Safaricom has also partnered with Internet Watch Foundation to implement network-wide blocking of child sexual abuse content, which is universally considered to be illegal. More recently, we've joined hands with our partners in the telecommunications industry to ensure our children are protected and equipped to deal with cyberbullying. In November 2018, we signed the Kenya Child Online Protection Industry Charter to demonstrate our commitment to child online protection. We have also implemented and integrated child rights across our business. Safaricom has adopted the child's rights and business principles that were developed by the UNICEF, the UNGC, the United Nations Global Compact, and Save the Children. This is a framework of integrating child's rights across the company, in the workplace, in the marketplace, and in the community. This has resulted in a child online safety policy that provides guidelines to Safaricom staff when developing products and services to ensure they're sensitive to the safety of children online. In June 2019, Safaricom launched SecureNet, a software that enables our customers with fiber to the home to protect themselves from security threats, including viruses, spyware, adware, and other unwanted programs. More importantly, SecureNet allows for the content filtering so that parents can control what their children are accessing online. It can also be used to block unwanted websites and also allows parents to set up quiet time to manage the time the children spend online. Ladies and gentlemen, as an industry, we believe it is important that we continually create awareness and trigger a conversation on using the internet responsibly, respectfully, and critically, as well as creatively. This is important for us as we focus on our youth, who are going to be our future and to whom we're investing quite a lot, to ensure that as they explore the benefits that are presented by the internet, they also are safe from some of its ills. Allow me to mention about our collaboration with WeCare. The industry-wide initiative that we started 3 years ago was aimed at ensuring a safe online environment for young citizens in Kenya. Through the WeCare initiative, all mobile operators, and here I'm calling out fellow mobile operators in Kenya, Telkom Kenya, Airtel, led by Safaricom, we all joined together, and through this initiative, we signed up to the Child Online Protection Charter as a demonstration of our commitment to working together to provide a safer and more reliable online experience for the youth in Kenya. Under this charter, the mobile industry players have committed to working together with the Communications Authority to foster a culture of safe and responsible use of the internet. This will be achieved through a creation of awareness and collaboration between mobile operators, the Communication Authority in digitizing the Child Online Protection Booklet. This is a booklet we have developed together with the Communications Authority, but now we're going to put it in a way where it can be accessed by millions of children throughout Kenya digitally. We achieved this by developing a microsite, which is an online version of the Child Online Protection Booklet, and which will be accessed by millions of children across the country, as I've said. Together with other industry players, we are proud to hand over this interactive website to the Communications Authority for them to continue to share online safety tips for children and parents throughout the country. The site will enable more collaboration with other child online protection partners over the world, as it has links to other resources for child online protection from other providers throughout the world, and will ensure that our children are able to operate in the internet and develop and become creators and innovators in that space while being safe. In conclusion, I wish to pay tribute to the industry for coming together on this great initiative and thank the Communications Authority, our regulator, as well as the ICT Ministry for your support throughout this initiative. Together, we can make the internet safer for all our children and other users. I thank you.
Let's give Steve Chege another warm round of applause. Steve Chege is the Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, Safaricom PLC. I'd like us to also be part of the conversation online. The hashtag to use is Safer Internet Day KE. The hashtag to use once again is Safer Internet Day KE. For those who are joining us live on Citizen TV, also feel free to share any questions or comments that you may have, and we will also share it in the event. I'd like to now welcome Mrs. Mercy Wanjau, MBS, Acting Director General, Communications Authority of Kenya, as well as our host this morning. Let's give her a warm round of applause.
Madam Maureen Baka, Chief Administrative Secretary, Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs, Mr. Steve Chege, Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, Safaricom PLC, Madam Joy Nyaga, Director, Legal and Regulatory Affairs, Airtel Kenya, Madam Caroline Simba, Head of Legal and Corporate Affairs, Jamii Telecommunications Limited, Madam Stella Wawira, Head of Public Policy and Regulatory, Telkom Kenya, Madam Monica Sandvik Nyland, Chief Child Protection Officer, UNICEF Kenya, Madam Marcin Degwa, Head of Public Policy, East and Horn of Africa, Facebook, Mr. Michael Murungi, Government Affairs and Public Policy Lead, East Africa, Google, our Child Online Protection Program partners, my colleagues, invited guests, the Fourth Estate, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I wish to welcome you all to the CA Center to this event, which we have convened to mark the 2021 Safer Internet Day. For those of you who were present with us last year, you remember that was before COVID. We had a lot of children in the room. There was a lot of pomp and fanfare. And at the end of it, the children took us through some amazing dance moves. Now here we are inside the pandemic and things have so changed. But we remain forever thankful because while we may not be together physically, technology has enabled this connection that we are able to stream live and to still have the same conversation, the same interaction, albeit in a different form, to celebrate this very, very important day. This day is particularly important to the authority as it is a constant reminder that while the internet continues to enrich our lives, we must never forget the challenges we continue to face, especially for vulnerable segments of our population, like our dear children. Knowing the wide scale of the problem and the fact that it cannot be dealt with by one entity alone, we continue to engage our various stakeholders to leverage the diverse expertise in confronting this common challenge. This is why I am very delighted that today we are joined by various partners in our Child Online Protection Program, the local telecommunications industry, and the social media fraternity to mark this day. Ladies and gentlemen, the authority has continued to facilitate the deployment of ICT services across our country, leading to an increase in the uptake and consumption of communication services by all in Kenya, including our children. The COVID-19 pandemic has just reinforced how important connectivity and technology is not only to organizations, to businesses, to homes and government agencies. We continue to rely on ICT services and particularly the internet to extend reach for healthcare, for education, information exchange, and even e-commerce in the new normal. While cyber threats are not new and they continue to pose great risks to society and the economy and to our children, the COVID-19 pandemic has also exacerbated the magnitude of this challenge. Throughout this COVID-19 crisis, cyber criminals have unleashed all manner of attacks, including fraud, phishing, extortion, and increased ransomware that have compromised critical ICT systems. It is for this reason that we have heightened our vigilance and the need to develop mechanisms that protect vulnerable consumers and critical infrastructure from cyber threats during this pandemic and beyond. And we shall not relent because, as we all know, our motto is to move Kenya to be a digitally transformed nation. That is the goal. And this is not the work of the government alone. It calls for enhanced collaboration among various stakeholders, given the ubiquitous nature of the internet and the fact that ICTs in general have permeated all aspects of our lives. That is why we continue to join hands to make cyberspace safer for all and to increase and deepen the reach, particularly for minors. Our partners include Safaricom, Telkom Kenya, Airtel Kenya, Jamii Telecom, Google Kenya, Facebook, UNICEF, AFRALTI, the African Advanced Level Telecommunications Institute, the GSMA, whose incredible support has made this important event a success. We see this enhanced collaboration establishing a firm foundation for a safer and more secure use of internet-based services by all in Kenya. Chief guest, Madam Baka, ladies and gentlemen, as I have already indicated, the COVID-19 pandemic created a new frontier for cyber criminals to thrive. If I could just give you a context by way of statistics, between September and December 2020, our computer incident response team detected a staggering 56 million cyber threats. A majority of those threats were malware attacks at 46 million, followed by web application attacks at 7.8 million, while there were 2.2 million distributed denial of service threats. Perhaps these numbers sound alarming. Let me assure you that this is typical of what was registered globally, and the action and the response that we took to feedback to these threats ensure that we are able to promote trust and confidence on the internet. Part of our responsibility is to advise organizations on how to further reinforce their networks to stem off such attacks. This is more so as organizations have embraced remote working with subsequent risks, such as the use of personal devices for official work. We have also leveraged social media platforms to enhance understanding on cyber hygiene and practical ways to keep safe on the internet. But by far, the most robust initiative that we have been implementing as the authority is the Child Online Protection Initiative, which we rolled out 5 years ago. This program has been key in ensuring that our children are protected from unsuitable content online. I believe when you see the cop behind me, this cop is now a familiar face. And let me take the opportunity to really just call out to my colleagues who have spent numerous hours working on this flagship project that has come to assure that as Kenya continues to move towards digital transformation, we move forward with trust and confidence that the experiences online will be safe and resourceful. This includes empowering not just children, but also parents and guardians with the required skills and knowledge to deal with the vulnerabilities and the risks that children face online. I'm gratified that this campaign has further triggered the development of other initiatives within the industry among other key stakeholders to protect children online. And indeed, I did note the remarks made by Mr. Chege on behalf of Safaricom about the internet interactive website for children. Thank you very much. Invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, with an estimated 1 in 3 of all internet users in the world today being below the age of 18, and with the growing availability of technologies and new services, children and young people are facing increased safety risks when they go online. Locally, the tragedy of child online abuse and exploitation remains a growing concern and is manifested in numerous cases that we have seen in media. But as our society undergoes the full cycle and impact of digital transformation, I must this year's theme for Safer Internet Day celebrations, Together for a Better Internet, is appropriate. The cyberspace will increasingly become more complex. It will require regulators and other stakeholders to do all that they can to safeguard children online. Our children today are tech savvy, they have access to mobile devices, and this sometimes exposes them to risks such as cyberbullying and online sexual harassment. They also get exposed to sexually explicit materials and online stalking, among other vices. These vulnerabilities are envisaged to rise as learning institutions embrace digital learning. And what this means then is, in order to foster a safeguarded space, that we all must scale up our efforts to confront this menace. It is in this regard that the authority, together with its various partners, have been collaborating in creating an online resource that we hope to help in creating awareness of safety of children online. I do recall that over the years, we have interacted with Google, for example, with the Web Ranger program that continues to be one of the initiatives that shares this awareness to our children in Kenya today. The interactive portal that we are unveiling today will also go a long way in making the internet a safer place for our children, and we are glad that we are marching on and going deeper and further. This site will be home to exciting online safety tips for children and parents. It also has a gaming component that enables both the young and the young at heart to measure their level of awareness on online risks. The public will be able to use this platform to report any cases of child online abuse, which will be directly channeled to the authority for necessary action. At the same time, the public can access information about other organizations that offer support for children, such as Childline Kenya, Kenya's Association of Professional Counselors, the Cradle, and the Children's Department in the ministry. It is my sincere hope that stakeholders will find this platform an important tool in addressing the concerns that children face every day in the digital space. As I conclude, it is my desire to see all of us sustain efforts to keep our children safe in the cyberspace. Each one of us, including our children, should be able to tap into the immense possibilities that the internet brings. Indeed, the internet is a whole new world, and this is the only way we can remain competitive and leverage and contribute meaningfully to the progress of this country and the world at large. We can do this also by regularly engaging our children and young people to understand their perspectives and the things that they hold dear, so that we can craft practical solutions that resonate with their concerns on internet use. With those remarks, it is now my singular pleasure and privilege to invite our chief guest, Madam Maureen Baker, the Chief Administrative Secretary at the Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs, to address us. Welcome, Madam.
Thank you. Mrs. Mercy Wanjau, Acting Director General, Communications Authority, Mr. Steve Chege, Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, Safaricom, representative and management from Telkom Kenya, Airtel, and Jamii Telecommunications Limited, Ms. Monica Sandik Nyland, Chief Child Protection Officer, UNICEF Kenya, Ms. Mercy Ndegwa from Facebook, Mr. Michael Murungi, Google, all of Communications Authority Child Online Protection Program partners, invited guests, the Fourth Estate, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am pleased to join you this morning and the entire global fraternity in marking this year's Safer Internet Day. Let me also commend the Communications Authority alongside other child online protection partners and stakeholders for convening this event in order to raise local awareness on the important and indeed pertinent subject of online safety. This day has become an important platform for all of us, policymakers and consumers alike, to have a conversation on how to harness the immense opportunities that the internet presents,
while at the same time taking into account the dangers that lurk on the internet. It is no doubt that the net, more than anything else, has fundamentally transformed our lives in ways we never imagined. Our world is now so small, but our possibilities are so many. In today's increasingly connected society, where all services are digitally enabled, it would be difficult to contemplate life without the internet. In Kenya, ICTs in general and the internet in particular are key enablers of our economy, an important cog in the government's Big Four agenda and our quest to actively participate in the global digital economy. Ladies and gentlemen, to ensure that ICTs continue catalyzing the economy and thus realize the lofty goals of Kenya's long-term development blueprint, the Vision 2030, the Ministry of ICT last year revised the National ICT Policy Guidelines of 2006 through the release of the ICT Policy Guidelines of 2020. One of the key objectives of the revised guidelines is to grow the contribution of the local ICT sector to 10% of the GDP by 2030. In addition, the Ministry of ICT is committed to facilitating the infrastructure conditions for use of universal and always-on high-speed internet across the country. The policy objectives will be actualized partly through ensuring that every Kenyan has access to inexpensive internet and locally manufactured low-cost smart mobile devices. At the same time, the government shall continue digitizing and taking its services online with a view to ensuring citizens access public services quickly, irrespective of where they live. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya is one of the fastest growing ICT markets in Africa, where digital technologies are driving increased productivity in virtually all sectors of the economy. According to the 2020 National Economic Survey, the value of output in the ICT sector rose by 10.3% in 2019. During the same period, intermediate consumption and value added by the sector grew by 14.1% and 1.1% to 310.6 billion and 116.4 billion respectively. Expectedly, as ICTs have become more pervasive and widely integrated with various sectors of the economy, the menace of cybercrime has continued to rise at a corresponding scale. Worse still, the COVID-19 pandemic has seen an upsurge in cyber-related threats and crimes, including the rise of fake news and others. As the CA, Acting Director General, has indicated in her remarks, the volume of cyber threats detected in the country in the quarter ending December 2020 surpassed the 50 million mark. If experience is anything to go by, the upcoming elections period will witness an upsurge in hate speech online and other forms of cybercrime in the country. I therefore wish to call on CA to move with speed to leverage partnerships with relevant state agencies and private sector players to manage situations as they emerge. The complex and borderless nature of internet calls for concerted efforts by all stakeholders to secure the cyberspace. The recent signing of an MOU between CA and the National Cohesion and Integration Commission was a step in the right direction. The time is also right for CA to enhance its detection and other functionalities of its National Kenya Computer Incident Response Coordination Center in order to be adequately prepared to deal with escalating number of incidents, but also a diverse set of increasingly complex cyber security threats. On our part, as the government, I wish to note here that we are committed to put in place rules, structures, and policies to ensure that children can use the internet and other ICT services safely. In this regard, The government will, among other measures, develop a legislative framework that embraces child online protection. In addition, the government will, through relevant agencies, develop local public awareness information and content targeting various audiences, including the children. We shall also develop an innovative online values program to instill the right online values in children, as well as foster the development of technical tools and services in the market to minimize the risk of exposure to children. Further, the government will prioritize equipping of law enforcement agencies and judicial officers to adequately handle child online protection related matters, besides developing a framework for collaboration between local and international organizations and law enforcement agencies. That is why I am impressed to note that the CA organized some training sessions yesterday for various stakeholders on child online safety as part of continual capacity building for the sector. Ladies and gentlemen, just like the offline space, we all need a safe, resilient, and secure digital realm. The capabilities must straddle strategy, technical, legal, policy, and security matters across sectors and across nations. As a government, we remain committed to protecting Kenya's interests and assets, both online and offline. Additionally, with the establishment of the Office of the Data Commissioner, we now have set in motion a clear roadmap on how to address issues of personal privacy across various spheres, including the online space. Together with the enactment of the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act, we strongly believe that by doing so, we shall greatly promote confidence and trust in the use of ICTs by requiring confidentiality and integrity of personal information is safeguarded at all times. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, abuse and exploitation of children is unacceptable and should generally not be protected even by free speech principles. In the internet world, further protections are also needed to shield children from predators who may contact them through deceptive enticements in online forums. I am therefore glad to learn that the industry regulator has been working closely with other industry players to create a safer online environment. It is also heartening to see all mobile operators committing to have in place a child online protection policy to guide online violations against children. But as we set out our intentions on how to actualize this year's SID theme, which is Together for a Better Internet, let us remember that a good number of our citizens still don't have access. I know incredible strides have been made in this area through the Universal Service Fund, but we need to scale up this program to cover as many people as possible. I wish to therefore encourage the CA to enhance efforts to avail this and other communication services to various parts of the country. If we do so, we shall bring everybody on board to enjoy the opportunities that the internet presents for the advancement of humanity. Ensuring that the internet is better and safer for all is not the work of the government alone, but a responsibility of each one of us gathered here today. Let us join our hands to achieve this noble objective. With those remarks, I formally declare the 2021 Safer Internet Day celebrations officially open. Thank you very much for your attention.
Once again, let's give a warm round of applause to CAS, Maureen Barker from ICT, Broadcasting and Telecom. Well, it is time now for the handover and launch of the Interactive Child Online Protection Guide. And I'd like to call up on stage our chief guest, our host for today, Mrs. Mercy Wanjau, Steve Chege, as well as a representative from Airtel, Telkom, and GSMA, as well as Jamii Telkom. All right, and this is the official handover of the Interactive Child Online Protection Guide from industry players. As we can see, we're represented there by Safaricom, Airtel, Telkom Kenya, Jamii Telkom as well, under the We Care initiative that was spearheaded by GSMA. Let's give them a warm round of applause as they hand over this interactive website to the Communications Authority. We should be able now to actually see how the website works. We'd like to call back the CA and our host, Mrs. Mercy Wanjau, just to press this button. It is already sanitized, so you shouldn't worry too much about that. So, we do have a countdown, so we can roll the countdown before Mrs. Wanjau presses the button. 4, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that is the website. As you can see, it's interactive. You can see if you're going in as a parent or as a child. You can play a video that's on the interactive site as well. If you're a parent, is your child safe online? Let your child learn and thrive in an online environment that is safe and free from any threats as well as dangers. Thank you so much, Mrs. Wanjau and Maureen Baka. You may have your seats, and that is the interactive site. Please remember to follow the hashtag so you can also be able to see exactly how to interact on the website. I'd like to welcome Ghetto Classics back on stage. We have a skit which we have been told is really great, so we're looking forward to seeing that. Is it time for the skit now?
only 1992. You know how hard it is to plan a meeting.
The internet changed the world.
January 1st, 1983.
A network of networks.
The internet changed the world. 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 The internet changed the world.
It allowed us to communicate with any part of the world almost instantly.
The internet changed the world.
Like never before, we had all the information in the world right at our fingertips.
It boosted economies
And created new industries.
I can finally plan meetings effectively.
But people are still late. The internet changed the world. 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 It has connected us like never before. But
It has created a whole new virtual world with new dangers.
challenges
And obstacles. A virtual world that we're still trying to navigate till today.
Whoa! Cyberbullying! Identity theft!
Child pornography.
As you can see, we have a lot to do. And as a parent or a child, where do you even begin?
What is that you're looking at?
and we're not even listening.
So you mean to tell me you just said yes?
Why are you always on your phone?
Hello?
No, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Fine. See you next time.
Well,
I just fucked up.
Because you never told me. That means say no.
Why are you always on your phone? Well, if these situations seem familiar, don't worry. You're not alone. See, on every February, on the 9th, we celebrate World Safety Internet Day. And the Communication Authority of Kenya has given us some tips to help you, parents and children alike, to navigate this crazy virtual world. Tip 1, community. Communication is key if we're to help each other navigate this virtual world. Let's see what that might look like.
listen, I understand that you always see me working on my phone, but it's just because I have to work. Yeah, and I know you maybe like to copy me and everything, but I have an idea. Why don't we set aside time away from our phones to interact with each other, spend time with each other, laugh, talk? Yeah, would you like that?
Tip number 2, know your tech. There is tons of information on the internet, but even we as kids don't know how to navigate. New apps, links to websites popping up every day, we're bound to be exposed to inappropriate content. Luckily, you as a parent have tons of measures you can take to ensure that we don't end up being exposed to something we're not ready to see it. With ad blockers, age restrictions, network security, and even search monitors, you can ensure that your kid enjoys all the benefits of the internet without being exposed to it too much, too early. Hey son, what are you doing?
I'm just playing games.
I know you are.
Games tends to end out.
Mommy, what's this?
Tip 3, ask.
Why did I accept his friend request?
Because I said so?
What can I do with this game?
Unacceptable.
Why can't I be on my phone was age?
Who's the parent here?
Oh.
Now, this is not very helpful, is it? Children need to feel safe enough to come and ask that question and be sure that they'll receive more than a one-word generic answer as to why they have access to it. These conversations may not seem necessary or easy, but children need to understand for themselves why they need the dangers of the internet and why they need to stay away from it. Let's move on to the next. Tip number 4.
It's okay to say no.
Now you do understand that if you accept their friend request, they'll be able to see all of your pictures.
It's better I do not accept your friend request.
That's my boy.
Tip number 5, be an active parent and a proactive learner.
Thank you so much to Ghetto Classics. Let's give them a warm round of applause. Thank you so much. I was just watching that skit and I'm like, this could be my house. And I'm sure it's the same for many of you parents as well. I'd like now to invite our panelists for the next session. Mrs. Mercy Wanjao, MBS, Acting Director General, Communications Authority of Kenya. Please come join us up on stage. Ms. Mweni Mutisia, Head Directorate of Criminal Investigations, Anti-Human Trafficking and Child Protection Unit. Karibu Sana, please join us on stage. Ms. Caroline Mbugwa, HSC GSM Association, that's GSMA. Please join us on stage for this conversation. And at this point, I'd like to hand over to Sambi Tuku from Citizen TV to moderate this session. Please give them a warm round of applause. Right. Michael Murungi, Government Affairs and Public Policy Lead, Eastern Africa Google. Please join us on stage as well. All right, we'll need an extra seat up on stage. All right, if I can get some help just to take this podium off stage so we are able to look at, have full view of all our panelists.
Thank you so much, Terian, for that introduction. And as we begin the conversation, I hope you're enjoying your time. I was looking at the sketch and wondering what you're going to talk about. But I believe that there are so many things behind the scenes that the stakeholders here have been doing. And I just want to reintroduce the panel for your knowledge and those that are watching us from home. And I will begin with my immediate left. So we have one Michael Murongi, who is the Government Affairs and Public Policy Lead, Eastern Africa at Google. We have one, Mweni Mutisia, who is the Head Directorate of Criminal Investigations, Anti-Human Trafficking and Child Protection Unit, that is at the DCI. So you know we're well taken care of in matters. If you have any concerns, you know where to report. Then we have obviously our host here, Mrs. Mercy Wanjao, MBS, Acting Director General, Communications Authority. Thank you for your time. We have Monica Sandvik Nyland, the Chief Child Protection Officer from UNICEF Kenya. Thank you again for your time. And we have Caroline Mbugwa, HSC, very important to add, Senior Policy Manager, East Africa GSM Association. Thank you also for your time and to join this conversation. I want to begin by taking a look at, because obviously you have heard from the young people as they were doing the skit here, and you're hearing of the vulnerabilities that exist, the threats that exist. But I just want to get a perspective from your point of view and the organizations that you work from, starting with you from Google. What exactly have you been doing to ensure a safer space, not just for the younger generation, but also for internet users at such a time?
Thank you very much. Very pleased to be here. It's an honor for Google to be given the opportunity to engage during this very important day. So very quickly, in terms of our approach as Google to online safety, first, we build safety into our products. We make sure that the users who interact with our products have the ability and the knowledge and the tools to protect themselves as they're using our tools. whether it is the two-step verification for your Google account, password manager, which we are promoting during this day, and also Safe Search and other tools that we've incorporated. And the second way is we educate our users also. We run programs that support our users to understand how to be safe and responsible users of the internet. And as Madam Mercy Wanjao said, in the last Safer Internet Day, we launched one of our programs on online safety, which is Internet Awesome. And the other one we have is WebBrain, which is running for quite some time. And finally, we build partnerships and collaborations. And our partners are here, with, of course, with the Communications Authority, with the Kenya Scouts Association, with Code IP Trust, led by Alex Pekuti, and also with KFCB in building our partnership and stakeholdership in online safety.
All right, and now from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, you may tell us about, of course, every other time you hear of these complaints of people who have been bullied, either it's online or people that have been attacked, but specifically for children and the youth. What sort of cases are you receiving, and what initiatives are you taking to ensure that these are mitigated, minimized, but ensure that you have more, better outcomes moving into the future?
Thank you very much, Ben. I would like to say that the DCI has been monitoring this virtual environment continuously. Why the monitoring? Because we need to respond in terms of investigations. We need to respond in terms of pulling down the online offending materials and images. And this is usually done through lots and lots of collaborations, and more specifically from the media owners and platforms. And we've seen a lot of support from these partners. So we receive a lot of cases, majorly online sexual exploitation and abuse, bullying, and also advertisement that is usually involving children, which is illegal. Yeah.
Okay, all right. And of course, we had quite a presentation here from our host here, but just for the sake of this conversation, may tell us on how you've been working towards ensuring safer internet at such a time, again, for the same class of younger people and the youth.
Thank you very much. As the ICT regulator, our job is to implement government policy. And with the new policy that was published last year, you note a very deep commitment to avail connectivity, including the internet. You also note very deliberate steps towards protecting young users and vulnerable users. So for us, our role remains that of having discussions, making implementation, monitoring that implementation, and where it seems that things are not going as we expected, to come back, revisit the issue, and move forward. Of course, we cannot do that alone, and this is why we really are coming out as partners, as anchor partners for the industry and others affiliated in this sector, because we can only do it together, not alone.
Indeed, you cannot do it alone. And from the UNICEF Chief Child Protection Officer, Monica Sandbeck, what is it like for you having to interact with, like the skip told us here, that we are more connected, but then again, the vulnerabilities are still going up. So what has it been for you dealing with this area?
You know, it was a brilliant skit. I hope everybody saw it. I think the young people really captured what we are talking about here. So for UNICEF, we are working to address violence against children, whether it happens online or offline. And we are working from two perspectives, so prevention and protection. And in terms of prevention, a lot of it is about creating awareness around child online protection. We've launched with the government a campaign that is called Spot It and Stop It, which is looking at violence more broadly, but it also has a component of online protection. And last year as well, I think with Citizen TV, there's a children's drama show that's called Yohari. We agreed that they would kind of weave into the story, the drama, on real cases of children who have faced abuse online. And I think it was a really good way of communicating to children through a drama of what the risks are and how they can protect themselves. In terms of protection, we are looking very much at working with the government to have structures, systems in place that actually can then respond to violence when it happens. We're very good partners with Madam Weni's Anti-Human Trafficking and Child Protection Unit, and we are supporting them, for example, with capacity to analyze a lot of the material that is coming into the unit from the internet service providers, from the National Center for Exploited and Missing Children, which is where they receive their referrals from. We're also working with the justice sector to kind of ensure that they have the capacity to then prosecute crimes that against children online. And then through the Department of Children's Services, we are working on victim support. So that's, I think, in a nutshell, what we are doing.
Okay. All right. Very, very interesting there. And Caroline, from the GSM Association, of course, for those that may wonder what GSM stands for, it's a global system for mobile communications. And most of the people now are having to use these devices, but specifically, what are your concerns in this sector and what has been your role at the association?
Thank you very much. And I must first say that it's a pleasure to be here with you all. And maybe to just give a bit of a background who the GSMA is, because I'm seeing a lot of us may be struggling with this. So the GSMA is an association of mobile operators, a global association that will represent the interests of mobile operators globally. And our key objective is mainly through engagement with with the policymakers, regulators, and other stakeholders in the digital ecosystem to look at connecting everyone and everything for a better future. And of course, we continue to support the development of the ICT space. And currently, worldwide, mobile reaches over 5.1 billion connections. And as we just discussed, and even the skit that the Ghetto Classics were talking about, connectivity has become even more vital now. So this is even more an even better time for us to look at how to make sure that our children stay connected. And I think the CAS has also talked about connectivity for those who are not connected. And of course, looking at making sure that this connectivity is safe and reliable. And as a GSMA, when we look at the issue of online safety, we take a wider perspective to the rights of a child. And we use the UN Convention of the Rights of a Child as a founding framework that guides in looking at helping our children unlock the true value of connectivity. Because as you rightfully mentioned, there's a lot of benefits in the online space, right from education material to interactions, etc. But also making sure that this connectivity has less and less risks to these children. And this framework provides, this Convention of Rights provides the framework that looking at from not just protection, but also active participation. And this is something that I know UNICEF talks about a lot. And when you look at the initiatives that the GSMA has done, so we have partnered with a lot of stakeholders, because as we're just talking about, if you look at everyone is talking about, we're looking at the power of collaboration. So we partnered with the UNICEF and International Telecommunication Union to develop guidelines for the industry in terms of the child online protection guidelines. And these are guidelines that are used by the mobile operators to be able to develop their own, to internalize internally, and I'm sure you had Safaricom mention development of policies that guide them in terms of right from the conceptualization of products and rollout of these products. So the child is at the heart of the development of these products within these organizations, and also looking at when you talk about protection. So we are not just talking about protection at the point where prevention. So also even at the time that a child has gone through one of these challenges that we're highlighting, so cyberbullying or any other challenge, how can this child be able to address this? What do they have the information that would help them to be able to get the necessary help? So either reaching out for a helpline, reaching out for counselors that will be able to address these problems. And over and above developing these guidelines, so we have the We Care initiative, which is one of the reasons why we are here today. an initiative that is a multi-stakeholder initiative that brings together the private sector and the government, like in the case for Kenya, the mobile operators and the regulator, in the development of solutions that are regionally, that are locally focused, and of course solutions that provide an opportunity of making the connectivity more safe and reliable for consumers. And this type of initiative, like for instance, like the one in Kenya, which was launched in 2018, and I must say and commend the mobile operators in Kenya and the regulator. This was the very first to be launched in Africa, and it looks at how do we, and the operators came together to see how do we make sure that, or how do we improve connectivity and the safety of the children as they interact with services. So more and more is just making sure that we bring the industry together with various stakeholders to see how we can improve the safety of children online. Thank you.
Right, and ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about a more tech-savvy population or generation. The younger people, they're accessing smartphones more than they would access, or rather they're consuming video demand more than they would watch a live TV. But Acting DG, you spoke about 56 million threats. It was the last quarter of last year. If you may quantify, if you may give us more details, specifically how much of an impact the COVID-19 has been to the rise of these risks and the threats?
COVID-19 has amplified everything, because if you recall last year, around February, March, when the COVID pandemic was declared in Kenya, we were working in the office, the children were going to school, the shops were open and all that. Then within a space of a week, there was a major fracture. People moved from offices and went into homes. What does that mean? It means that we carried sensitive work from corporate environments that have multiple layers of protection and security, and went to do it in a domestic space that at best is catered for, you know, doing email, entertainment, watching Netflix, this kind of thing, and corporate work was being done in that kind of environment. Children were also migrating from face-to-face interaction with teachers to having classes on the many platforms that we have all come to learn about. And the world over, we witnessed major incidences of hacking. You know, pornographic hacking incidences were really very rife all over the world. A lot of fraud, data theft, and the like. So that you find when you do a comparative analysis between the last year's quarter ending December 2020 at almost 60 million threats, this is mirrored to 2019, where the threats were about half of that. But this should not come as a surprise, because we were all online. Then you notice a sharp increase once more around December, with a lot of people going online to buy things and all that, and you know, the same kind of trend on identity theft and the like. Now, I indicated that while these numbers look huge, we shouldn't be alarmed. These numbers are within the margin of acceptability worldwide. But the differentiator is what each country will do to detect these threats, to give information and awareness to the users so that they protect themselves, with the aim of securing our systems, being better able to interact online, so that we continue to bring these threats down, and that way ensure that we are having positive and safe experiences online.
That's good something, but from Google's perspective, so there's this exposure, like she says, that all of us, most of us were online, and there are these realities. Did you notice anything from the traffic of people that would use your search engine, or what you now say are some of the things that you put in place to ensure that you're mitigating this impact, especially on the users?
Yes, indeed. Last year was, you know, an extraordinary year for the globe and for online users. Definitely, as a provider on online services, we experienced heavy traffic on our online services, including our video, our online our video conferencing platform, Google Meet, and quite a number of other products. And I think what we did was we knew that because suddenly the world had been pushed into an environment, as Madam Mercy Wanjawa said, where people are now congregated in family environments, and the devices are being pushed into the hands of children and families more than ever before. What we did was we partnered with the Kenya Film Classification Board and with Evenet Communications, here represented by our partner in that engagement, Madam Evelyn Kasina, in running online and virtual trainings on digital parenting, on how to use the internet safely and responsibly. So what we had before, while we had a program that was targeted mainly at students and teachers and educators, we now pivoted to shaping a program that would help families that are in lockdown during the pandemic. And we were running these webinars mostly on Sundays, after what would typically be the time that maybe the family would have a fun day out, or maybe after the church or religious service. And we did this also in partnership and in collaboration with the Communications Authority. And we led a number of webinars where we trained parents on the tools, not only on how to be safe online, but also how to use the internet to thrive during the pandemic. What are the fun aspects of using the internet, the educational ones, and the entertainment ones, and even more importantly, how to make sure that we do that safely and responsibly while they're navigating.
And all this was happening. I want to hear from you, Mweni, from the DCI, if there was a spike in the complaints or cases that are being filed with you, and what has been the success, especially on investigating them and following through to what could have led to this.
Thank you, Ben. Definitely there was an increase during that period. That was last year, March to sometimes December. There was an increase in the cases that you're receiving. As you had earlier, we usually receive cyber tips from National Exploited and Missing Children, that is NECMEC. And we realized that we would get an average of around, from around 600 to around 1,300. So there was an increase, and it was easy to follow it up, and especially on the pulling down of the imageries. But it wasn't so easy on the investigations. It was a challenge because of the movements around, and especially getting evidence. Yeah. And then we've got some cases that are before court. Yes.
Maybe you could give us just a bit of more details specifically, because when you're investigating any other crime, it is easy to follow the process of looking for that evidence. But what is it like investigating some of these complaints from internet users?
Most of the times you find that getting evidence from the online crime is not usually easy. Why? Because it's easy to lose evidence in the process, and there are so many uploads that are done by different people. You find that the main perpetrator puts on, like, for example, you say that posting of images online, and then so many other people upload the same. So at the end of the day, getting the initial perpetrator becomes a challenge. Yeah.
Okay, I want to get to you, Monica and Caroline, but before I do so, allow me to get back to Mercy here, because when she raises such a kind of a challenge, what are the possibilities from your organization that this can be assisted when it comes to investigation of those threat-like posts?
The DCI and other enforcement agencies are frontline stakeholders and partners. And as she has indicated, one of the most difficult things is picking up the original person who posted, because the nature of the internet is that it iterates and replicates the images, so that should you post an image today and it goes viral and is multiplied, where do you start? And this really brings us to the big question: do we have the capabilities to enable this kind of investigations? Yes, we do, but the internet is moving and changing every day. So you can never reach a point where you say, I'm now on spot. And this is why we continue to collaborate, as Madam CAS has indicated, and they made a call to action, that we enhance our capabilities. Some of those capabilities are capabilities of tracking, capabilities of detection, capabilities of preserving that evidence. Because remember, cyber criminals are also very sophisticated people. So they will commit these crimes. It's borderless. They could be from another country, another continent, and as soon as they post it, they're able to cover up their paths. Where do you start? So this remains a constant challenge, but with the kind of strong partnerships that we have forged across the board, we carry on to safeguard the space.
And Caroline, knowing that this is a real challenge and it's going to be difficult for everyone who is trying to police against these offenders, so what are you able to do, and what have you been able to do during the COVID-19 situation since March last year?
Thank you very much. And just to, as the acting Gigi has mentioned, so the internet space is very dynamic. A lot of changes happen, and it becomes a bit of a challenge when you have, you may have all the best tools in terms of monitoring, tracking, etc. And I'm not saying that we should not continue, so that's very important. But at the GSMA, we believe that awareness is your first line of defense. You need to create awareness to the consumers, the children themselves, the parents, caregivers, teachers, etc. And that is why engagements like this ones and many others that we have spoken about here are very important. And in creating this awareness, you're giving people the tools in their hands to understand what is a threat online. How can I be able to protect myself? How can I be able to actually, report such a case? And how does this impact me as a person or even the people around me? So at the GSMA, we work very hard with our mobile operators and of course other stakeholders, like Google and and UNICEF and other international bodies to create awareness around online safety, because we believe that as much as the people that are connected are aware of the threats, and this is done mainly through a tool that we have on digital literacy, where we have one of our train on the toolkit. One of the sessions that we have is training around how to stay safe online, and of course how to be able to make sure that you have all the necessary knowledge in terms of how to report these cases and who to be able to approach in the event of an incident. Yeah.
And from a child protection perspective at UNICEF, did you notice a spike, and what interventions have you taken now to contain this?
Thanks. The numbers are staggering already before the COVID. I think there's an estimation that there's, at any given time, there's about 750,000 people online that are seeking contacts with children for sexual purposes. So this is before COVID. So now that children have spent more time online, it just adds up, and you can see that there is an increased risk for children. I think one of the things that we've been working on this year is to develop a multi-sectoral national response plan when it comes to online child sexual exploitation and abuse. This has been led by the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection together with Communications Authority of Kenya. And it really brings together all the actors and outlines a plan in terms of what are the different actors going to do to contribute to keep children safe online, and what response mechanism needs to be in place. This plan will be launched within the next few months. And I think it is really an important document because it brings together all the actors, and it kind of gives us a roadmap in terms of what needs to be done and who is responsible for what. So I think that's an important milestone for Kenya.
And for anybody who is foreign to this conversation, let me just take us through the sort of impact as these threats, the unsafe internet has, especially on children who are in school, maybe some of them getting into teenage. What sort of impact does it cause, and especially as they move on, transition to the next phase of life?
Well, I think one thing that children don't often understand is that nothing is secret online. And when it's online forever. And I think one of the most kind of devastating stories that I hear is about, when we're talking about child sexual abuse material online, there is the abuse that happens to the child, but once it is online, and as Mweni was saying, it's shared by multiple people, that abuse continues after that one incident when it really happened. But then I read, for example, that Europol has about 46 million in unique child sexual abuse material in their repository. So that's a staggering number, and that means that every time that material is uploaded and viewed, the abuse continues for these children. Mm-hmm. So that's just one example in terms, and I think also when we talk about extortion online, where it can start maybe as a boy-girl relationship, and the girl or the boy shares compromising material of themselves, what they think is kind of a private conversation with this, but then maybe later on the other person is actually sharing that widely. Mm-hmm. So that of course creates a lot of anxiety for children. It has mental health implications. There's a lot of shame. They don't want to maybe speak to their parents, which I hope that would be the best way forward, that they can speak to adults about that, what has happened, and they can then jointly try to find a solution. But the implications are huge, and I think also long term, mm-hmm. And that's not always understood by children.
Right, and of course, if you're joining this conversation from wherever you may be, you can join the conversation by tweeting us with the hashtag SaferInternetDayKE. I'll be reading some of your questions, including one from a student, people I believe, Miriam from ACK St. James Buruburu. You're asking, how do you prevent being obsessed with the internet? And this is a serious concern, especially for different young people. I don't know what to toss it back. Let me just get back to you, Monica, before I can spread it to the rest of the panelists. So how do you avoid being obsessed? Because it's pretty enticing that you want to zone away from whatever you're going through in whatever physical space you're in. You want to connect with friends, you want to explore more. How do you avoid that obsession and still focus on what you need to for the rest of your life?
That's a very good question. And I'm sure many of us are grappling with that as well. I think it's about having a balanced life, maybe dividing your day in segments and thinking, this much time I will spend on reading, this much time on studying, I will spend this much time on the internet, but you somehow kind of plan it. So it's not just that, internet can suck you in. So I think it is about kind of trying to plan your day, plan your life, make a deal with yourself, how much time do you want to spend in internet, and then try to hold yourself accountable to that, rather than just finding that you spent 3 hours on the internet and things that maybe didn't really give you so much. Mm-hmm. So I think it's about striking a compact with yourself and maybe with your parents.
Okay, all right. Must you may respond to that question as well on
I think just to complement what Monica is saying, it's also about putting in practical tips, practical strategies. For example, use devices in certain parts of the house. Don't take devices to the bedrooms, for example, because you find children sometimes will use phones the whole night. 2, switch off the Wi-Fi, because without the Wi-Fi and without the device, then the person is able to sleep, for example, or focus on other things. It has been demonstrated through research that a lot of parents worldwide will avail devices to their children because they believe that this will help them in their educational purposes. But then analysis shows that a lot of those devices end up getting used for edutainment and entertainment. Then the practical strategy out of that is that perhaps these devices should be used in spaces where others can see. So the device is facing outward, so that you can't then be online doing games and these kind of things. And this is why the learning and the tips and the websites that we have launched today are useful, because it's a continuing conversation. The strategies and the conversation keeps changing, and we need to be dynamic as well.
Mm-hmm. And Murungi, I want you to reflect on that question, but as you do so moving forward, post-COVID, I don't know what post-COVID means because it's still within COVID, but all the same, we will have to look for ways on how to survive, because yes, the learners may be back in school, and the question of Kenya, but it's likely that there'll be more opportunities for people to study online, they say on Zoom, whichever platform it is, it's called Zoom. But how do we ensure that there's safety moving forward, despite what happens to this internet space?
Yes, absolutely. I think, so to the question, I think on what to do about that space, I think I would say that just like with anything, when technology, whether it is the internet or anything, when it is used obsessively, it degrades our lives. Anything, it could be anything. When something is used mindfully and creatively, it enriches our life experience. So therefore, with the internet, I think that what I like to say, especially to the young people and the young users, because their minds are very impressionable, is first of all, before you go online, we'd like to encourage them to define who they are. So who are they with respect to the internet? And in the same way, when they're working in the external world, in the physical world, in a city, when they are a student and they come to the city, who are they with respect to the city? They are a student. And there's a way that a student is supposed to behave. There are corners they will not go. There's people who will accompany them when they're in certain places. So the same thing with the internet. I think very important for our parents, guardians, teachers to instill, first of all, for students to define our people to understand who they are with respect to the internet. The best vision, of course, is to be a person who promotes love and understanding online as opposed to hate and intolerance. Someone who is there to learn and grow and enrich and contribute to the world. If one has that understanding before they go online, then no matter what they encounter, they will have the tools and the mental presence of mind to know how to deal with it. Of course, with the tools also being made to ensure that they are safe and all that. So moving forward, I would say that I think what we can do in a post-COVID world, I don't know if it's post, I think we are still very much inside of COVID. But going forward, I think what we are seeing is we have more people being acclimatized to preferring online tools as opposed to physical tools, to preferring video call meetings as opposed to in-person. In fact, last year probably we should have held this one virtually, but anyway, we understand we will. Actually, we did, but it was before the height of the pandemic. So what we are doing is also making sure that we build the partnerships and we continue with our work in supporting of the stakeholders who are doing the work in online safety. For example, this year we've announced a grant that we are giving to boost projects and partners who are combating online vulnerabilities and misinformation and extremism that is targeting children, youth, and families, schools, and also targeting small businesses. Two organizations, very quickly, that are going to be the beneficiaries of this fund here in Kenya, but will receive up to $100,000, that's up to 10 million Kenya shillings, is Child Fund International Kenya, the Kenyan chapter, who are doing research, community and school engagement, and also media-based training on policy developments to combat child sex trafficking. And the second one is Epuka Ugaidi, who are building a platform that uses creativity and art, short films, poetry, and music in countering extremism. And then a few others will receive smaller grants up to 10,000. Lomanak, Pajan Kenya, She Hacks Kenya, Safe Information and Communications Tech, and finally, Winam Wezesha Accelerator. So we are continuing and doubling down on our commitment to support our stakeholders and our partners in reaching young people with online safety messaging and tools.
Right, Moni, I'll come to you, but before we do so, there's a question here from Miriam that I want to direct to Caroline. She's asking, and I'm wondering why just women are raising questions or girls are raising questions, whether men are not concerned, but how do you prevent hackers? As you respond to that, there's this phenomenon that has come, the blogging, video blogging, even by the younger generation. There is the virtual reality where you see so much of content that is not a representation of the real world, but it's getting the younger generation, but also some adults. How do we help them to be in a position to tell between what is real, what's not, and the dangers of vlogging as such sort of content? And then how do you ensure that you can stem hacking, especially with mobile devices?
Thank you so much for that. And just to echo what my colleagues on the panel have been talking about. So if we look at the current trend, a lot of people are different online than who they are physically. So you find that a person's message online is completely different from what they would speak about offline. So I think it's for us to understand that there is no much difference between who you're supposed to be, just as what Michael was talking about, between your person when you're offline and when you're online. And that moral hygiene of the online space is very important because, as we said, once a message is online, it's forever there. It's something that you have to live with. And one thing that I normally tell myself is that anytime I go online and I'm putting forward content online, it's content that even my grandmother, if she ever had to look at it, it's content that I'll not feel ashamed, or someone that I respect or hold in high respect would actually look at me twice when they look at that content. So I think it's very important for ourselves to first self-police, to understand what kind of person do I want to be in the online space. If you're a parent, what example are you setting for your children? So if you're telling our children not to do something online, are you being that person? If your child is the one that is bullying other children online, what are you doing to help that child to be able to understand that that is wrong? So that it is important for us to instill in our children and in the society the importance of making sure that the rules we have observed in the offline space are observed in the online space, because there's no much difference. A lot of us think that the online space is something that is removed from who we are and is something completely out there, but it's really and truly very intricately ourselves. So that is the one thing that we talk about. And when you look at what we see online and what we see offline, again, I come back to saying that once you understand who you are and what you stand for, it will be very easy for you to identify what you don't want to identify with online and what you can. And there's a lot that is pushed online that, as you rightly said, may not be really realistic or may not represent what happens on offline. And I'll give a good example. You'll see that a lot of the younger generation, and perhaps even people here, when you're taking a photo, a selfie, you want to put filters and you want to put all manner of things to make your photos look a bit better than what it generally does. But that is just something to just say how we are slowly being groomed in terms of engaging with the online space. We are slowly being made to think that when you look a certain way or when you think a certain way, you're becoming a better user of the internet. And that is not right. That is not right. As we just said, that is looking at what you believe in and ensuring that if you see content that you don't see, goes with what your beliefs are, nobody is under any obligation to follow what is on that content. So I think it's first understanding that. And in terms of preventing hacking, Michael has just discussed how there are tools that are out there available that you can be able to install in your device that will be able to keep your device safe. I think for me, what I would advise the user or any other user is to visit either your mobile provider or a shop that sells phones that will be able to educate you on the various solutions that will be available, of course, that you can be able to download. There are those that are available free of charge. There are different apps that you can download that will be able to keep your phone safe and to be able to, to avoid things like hacking etc. on your phone or any other mobile device. So that is something that I would encourage, that look at apps that you can download, and of course, be able to visit other providers that will be able to provide these phones. There are various guidelines that are provided. I believe, like on the CA website, there are various guidelines that have been provided that you can follow, even as you're looking for solutions that can be able to provide that safety that you're looking for online. Right. So that is just one thing that I would like to recommend.
And of course, now it appears that the users and guardians and parents will have such a responsibility. But Moni, back at the DCI, so we know, yes, post-COVID season and all the realities that we're learning. So what are you going to do to ensure, you said that there are challenges in investigating these cases, but what are you doing, or what will you do to ensure there's behavioral change, there's appreciation of reality, like Caroline says, so that you don't get stuck investigating cases that may take so long until the victims cross over to the adulthood side?
Yeah, I said earlier that there's challenges, but one thing that I'd like to tell the public is that at the end of the day, we usually get the perpetrator of that crime. It usually takes time, as you're saying, but the one thing that you would like to say is there's need for change in attitude and behavior. And what we always say is it's online safety, it's for every person. It's not targeted for a particular segment, but it's usually for every other person, all the stakeholders, children, parents, caregivers, teachers, even the law enforcers. But now we know that with increased education and awareness, we are able to change the attitude, as you're saying, we are able to change behavior, and more so, we are able to also enhance capacity of the people, the investigators. Then we also have embraced some connections with Interpol. Interpol is also assisting us in cases where we are moving out of our boundaries, because as you know that this online crime has no boundaries. So we've also connected with Interpol, and Interpol has really assisted us in getting people that are committing this crime out there. And more specifically, we've connected with the database, that is International Exploitation Database, which they are experts that are checking on the images of the victims and the images of the exploiters. And this has really enhanced our work at the DCI.
Okay, all right. And the last phase of this conversation is supposed to be looking at the collaborations and partnerships that are necessary. He already started by speaking about it at large. But Mercy, so moving forward, what are your thoughts on specifically, because we may talk and have very good suggestions, but what are these issues that you can implement at a user level, at a parental level, despite what you spoke about, the space and what time to use the web and what have you, but when interacting with these platforms, what are those things that you can do that will protect you from these other attacks?
That's a very deep conversation because, as I said, conversations that were had 5 years ago have since evolved and the discussions are different. But there are some fundamentals that do not change. And one of them is that when it concerns child online protection, is that the communication aspect has to carry on. Lately, there has been the discussion about children and parents signing contracts on how to use their gadgets. And in those contracts, I like to call them negotiated documents. There's a whole understanding on what I will use, when, for how long, and if I offend what we had agreed, then there are consequences that come with it. I think that becomes a very integral part of some of the strategies that can be put in place. Secondly, we all recognize that coming out of COVID, we will be in a new reality, a new normal, and the use of technology will be on a high, which means then that even in schools, cyber cafes, and other public places where children are likely to engage with the internet, the need for a very high awareness, the need to introduce child safeguarding as part of the mainstream in those places, because remember, all these children do not have the same awareness. A child could be the cause of antagonism to another. This only amplifies that it doesn't have to be an external agent coming in. It could also be within a classroom or within a community, and hence the need for child safeguarding in a very deliberate manner as we go forward. And thirdly, to what she said, engage with your service provider, get to understand what are the tools, the mechanisms that can be installed in these gadgets so that you have protections at a structural level, even as you continue to safeguard at the operational or conversational level with your child.
And Monica, thoughts on partnerships and collaborations moving into the future?
Well, I think this space is very interesting because I think there's so much potential for private-public partnerships, and I think we already see that with the WeCare initiative that you mentioned, all the collaboration around this. I really like this Be the Cop initiative, and I'm great that it's now kind of also there's an interactive element, and there's so many partners that have come around that. And I think really it is an area where the public sector, where the government, you know, the children's services, the police, the law enforcement, and so on, really needs to work hand in hand with the private sector. For example, when it comes to procedures to take down material, and when we're talking about taking down child sexual abuse material, I would like to see that be something that is very speedy, very simple, very quick, and we're all on the same page on how that needs to happen. So I think that's where I really see a lot of potential for this partnership between the private sector, and there's a global partnership to end violence against children that UNICEF is also part of, and I know that they have now partnered with something called the Technology Coalition, which is a global coalition of many of these 16 big tech companies. Google is part of that, Facebook, Apple, and so on. And they put out a grant for doing research on this area. And I think we really need to have the knowledge of the tech industry to provide very simple solutions and tools to protect children online and help them seek help. So a lot of potential, I think. Thank you.
And Murongi here, there's someone who is teaching us and saying, this is consumer grassroots. They're saying that understand the default settings of the social networking sites you use and how to change them to match your comfort level. Limit or disable the location settings of photos and videos you post to social media networking sites. And many users, I say, could be ignorant about some of these basic things that you can do. But for you, what would be your advice to internet users and the home setup, or even the social, the school setup, on what they can do that are quick wins?
Thank you very much. Actually, very good, because so for those who are able to get online immediately, you can go on Google and search for Be Internet Awesome. Be Internet Awesome is a program that trains you as a family, as a young person, as an educator, on how, or as a teacher, on how you can use the internet safely and responsibly. It is tailored for younger people, but with very basic tools. For families, including parents and guardians, you can look for Digital Wellbeing by Google. On Digital Wellbeing, you find some tools that guide you on how you can use technology to have a safe and pleasant family environment in the home. And now technology can be used mindfully as opposed to compulsively. And for offline, if you're in school, please contact your scout leader. The Kenya Scouts Association, led by the patron, His Excellency the President, is our great partner. Their CEO, Mr. Moses Danda, is here. We have partnered with the Scouts so that the Scouts are now the ambassadors of online safety for our online safety program, Web Rangers, and Be Internet Awesome in the schools. So if your school has a Scout club, contact them and ask them if they've already gotten on board, and you'll be able to actually engage with them offline and also with the online activities. Thank you.
And Caroline, as we wind up, any thoughts on partnership, collaborations, and any tips that you can offer?
Yes, and just to add on what my colleagues have talked about, one area that I also believe that will be very important in terms of partnership is looking at helplines. Because when you look at the challenges around online safety, so once, when you think about a child who has already gone through one incident, it's important to see how can this child get help. And when you talk about helplines, is equipping helplines in a manner that the attendees at the helpline are able to actually understand the challenges that the children that are going through. So improving their capacity to be able to see and to be able to help this child, because at the point of reporting, if the child is not able to get the kind of help and support they require, in most cases, and we have seen studies that the case does not progress in terms of to the law enforcement agencies. So looking at how, and the GSMA works with the Child Help International, and of course in collaboration also with the UNICEF. And I believe this is something that a lot of other helplines can be able to do, to see how we can equip helplines that will be able to provide that safe environment, and for children and other stakeholders, even parents, etc., can feel safe to actually speak up, because speaking up is very important. So to continue creating the awareness that we are talking about, to demystify the challenges around online safety, and to see that it is not a sign of weakness when you come up and actually speak up about it. Because one thing that when you look at the issues around child exploitation online, a lot of them are done in secret. And the one thing that a secret doesn't like is to be publicized, is to be put out there. So once you speak up about it, and once you demystify the issues around it, then it becomes a very easy conversation to be able to have it. And I think another key important thing as we talk about collaboration is to find out how can we bring children more into this discussion. Because if you're talking about online safety for children, it's important for us to understand What are the things that their challenges? And I'm thankful that today we're able to have them follow this discussion online through Total News. So seeing how we can further understand what are the areas of interest in the online space and what are your areas of challenges and how can we be able to address these challenges to continue for you to be able to unlock the full value of connectivity in a safe and reliable manner.
Right. Okay, Monica, go ahead.
No, thanks for mentioning the child helpline. I just want to remind that the number is 116 and that they are trained and they are also already dealing with children who are facing challenges and abuse online. So thanks for bringing that up.
Okay, Mweni, you will speak last, but not the least. And specifically because when crime happens, you're asked to go to a police station and report, get an OB number. So when crime happens online, is it the same procedure? What should we do? Are there any more sophisticated ways of doing things?
What we've done is we've enhanced the reporting mechanisms. We've partnered with the UK government, Kenya, and we've launched a toll-free line, which is 0800 7220203. I repeat again, 0800 7220203. And we've seen increased reporting through this line, and it's usually anonymous. So you find that people do not really have to go to the police stations to report this, because sometimes you find that they fear, and there's a lot of stigmatization that comes along with, especially the online exploitation, sexual exploitation. So when they call this, it's easy to get through anonymously. But then they still, those that are not able to call, they still can make a report at the police station. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. We went above our time by 3 minutes, but I think you're forgiven. Are we? Acting DG? All right. We need to get that clearance. We call it absolution. So thank you so much, Mrs. Mercy Wanjau, the Acting Director General of Communications Authority. Thank you so much, Mweni Mutisia, Head Directorate of Criminal Investigations, Anti-Human Trafficking and Child Protection Unit. One, Michael Murungi, Government Affairs and Public Policy Lead, Eastern Africa. Monica Sandvik, Nyland, Chief Child Protection Officer at UNICEF Kenya. And one, Caroline Mbugua, HSC, Senior Policy Manager, East Africa GSM Association. Thank you for your time. My name is Sam Gituku, and over to you, Teria.
A big thank you to Sam Gituku and the panelists for really creating and just alerting us on the risks, the vulnerabilities that exist online, and as well as empowering us as parents and as consumers on child safety and protection. I have been asked to call back Michael Murungi from Google to give us a little more information on the Google Family Link app.
Thank you very much. Very briefly, one of the tools that Google has created for online safety and for wholesome family experience online is Google Family Link. You may download it from your App Store, Google Family Link. What Family Link does is that it helps a guardian or a parent in an environment where there's a device that has been assigned for the use of the child. It helps the parents to manage the child's use of that device safely and responsibly by using the parent's device as the parent's device in that sense, as the device that is able to, and it's not about monitoring what the child's device is doing, but it's about the parent and the child being partners and working together in online safety. So through that device, the parent is able to allocate, screen time, is able to know how much time is being spent online on the screen by the child, is able to grant bonus, screen time for good behavior or for whatever other reasons. And more importantly, it is able to actually block and control the kind of apps and online experiences that the child device is going through. So Family Link, download it from your favorite Play Store, especially from Google Play Store. Thank you.
We saw you plugging in there, Michael. All right, so we are coming to the end of our event this morning. Remember, lunch will be served at about 12. And between now and then, we can also just network and get to know each other, and lunch will be served. And when the time is right, I'll come back on stage just to give us the order in which we will go to the buffet, which is out there. I also want to acknowledge the students who joined us from home. SCK St. James, Buruburu, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Jabali Christian School as well, and a number of students who are homeschooled. Thank you for being part of our event this morning. And of course, the Mtoto News team for making this possible. Thank you so much for being part of our event today. Well, without much further ado, I'd like to welcome Christopher Wambua, to Director, Communications and Public Affairs at CA, to give us a vote of thanks. Let's give him a warm round of applause.
Thank you, Terian, and everyone for giving me this opportunity to give a warm vote of thanks on behalf of the Communications Authority of Kenya. And I wish to thank all of you for, especially those who are able to turn up for this event physically, for having made the time to join us here today. And in particular, I want to also thank our chief guests, who is who is absent here for now in absentia. That is ICT and Innovation Youth Affairs CS, Mr. Joe Musheru, who was represented by the Chief Administrative Secretary, Maureen Barker. She's in charge of ICT, Broadcasting and Telecoms in our Prime Ministry, who having found the time to really open this important event for us. And I also wish to thank other speakers, Madam Mercy, the Acting Director General of CA, Steve Chege of Safaricom. I see Steve has left, but I'm sure his colleague will pass our regards and our appreciation for what he did this morning. I also wish to thank other representatives from the industry, including partners, for coming up, showing up for this event, and also for especially the WICCA partners for preparing the online portal that is going to be very useful in sensitizing our children and the youth on the safe use of the internet. Thirdly, I wish to recognize our panelists. I think we've learned a lot from that most insightful panel. They shared with us information and perspectives on how we can use the internet more meaningfully for our benefit and especially children. And fourthly, I want to appreciate our partners, our COP partners, including the GSMA, Facebook, DCI, Department of Children's Services, Google, service providers, UNICEF, just to name a few. I will also not forget to appreciate the participants who, of course, provided us with a very good audience, the ones who are here, the ones who are able to follow the proceedings of today's event online or through the live broadcast through Citizen TV, Ghetto Classics for leading us through the national anthem and for the entertainment, including the skit. Our contractors who made this event very successful, including MMP Communications, Cesarova Hotels, who are going to serve us with lunch shortly, HK Strategies, and Citizen who partnered with us as a media partner for today. Of course, we will not forget to also thank the Fourth Estate for really giving us a medium to reach out to our stakeholders out there, especially children and guardians, so that we can together continue to make the internet a better and safe environment. And lastly, I will not forget to thank the CA team, the communications and public affairs team that worked very hard to make this event happen. And Terry and Tibet for, of course, moderating the program very effectively. And lastly, and not least, Mr. Sam Lituku, who did a fantastic job in moderating the panel. And I wish to apologize for any omissions that I may have committed in appreciating and giving the vote of thanks. And let us keep this conversation going. Let us disseminate the information that we've acquired here to the children and other internet users who require it. And I do believe that in future, we'll continue working together to make a better internet, which was the theme of this year's Safer Internet Day.